Larry Martin Hagman was an American film and television actor best known for playing ruthless oil baron J. Ewing in the 1980s primetime television soap opera Dallas, and befuddled astronaut Major Anthony Tony Nelson in the 1960s sitcom I Dream of Jeannie. Hagman had supporting roles in numerous films, including Fail-Safe, Nixon, and Primary Colors. His television appearances also included guest roles on dozens of shows spanning from the late 1950s up until his death, and a reprisal of his signature role on the 2012 revival of Dallas. He also worked as a producer and director on television. Hagman was the son of actress Mary Martin. He underwent a life-saving liver transplant in 1995. Although Hagman was a member of a 12-step program, he publicly advocated marijuana as a better alternative to alcohol. He died on November 23, 2012, from complications of acute myeloid leukemia. Early life: Hagman was born in Fort Worth, Texas. His mother, Mary Martin, became a Broadway actress and musical comedy star after his birth. His father, Benjamin Jackson Hagman, who was of Swedish descent, was an accountant and lawyer who worked as a district attorney. Hagman's parents divorced in 1936, when he was 5 years old. He lived with his maternal grandmother, Juanita Presley Martin, in Texas and California while his mother became a contract player with Paramount in 1938. In 1940, Hagman's mother met and married Richard Halliday and gave birth to a daughter, Hella, the following year. Hagman attended the strict Black Folks Military Institute. When his mother moved to New York City to resume her Broadway career, Hagman again lived with his grandmother in California. A couple of years later, his grandmother died and Hagman joined his mother in New York. In 1946, Hagman moved back to his hometown of Weatherford and attended Weatherford High School. One summer he worked for oilfield equipment maker Antelope Tool Company and witnessed the eldest son of the company founder win a battle to succeed his father. Although his father wanted Hagman to become a lawyer and join his practice, he was drawn to drama classes and reportedly fell in love with the stage. He graduated from high school in 1949, and decided to pursue acting. Career beginnings: Hagman began his career in 1950 acting in productions at Margaret Webster's School at the Woodstock Playhouse in Woodstock, New York. That summer, during a break from his 1 year at Bard College, he worked in Dallas as a production assistant and acting in small roles in Margot Jones's theater company. He appeared in The Taming of the Shrew in New York City, followed by numerous 10-show musicals with St. John Terrell's Music Circus in St. Petersburg, Florida, and Lambertville, New Jersey. In 1951, Hagman appeared in the London production of South Pacific with his mother, and stayed in the show for nearly a year. In 1952, during the Korean War, Hagman enlisted in the United States Air Force. Stationed in London, he spent the majority of his military service entertaining U.S. troops in the United Kingdom and at bases in Europe. After leaving the Air Force in 1956, Hagman returned to New York City where he appeared in the off-Broadway play Once Around the Block, by William Saroyan. That was followed by nearly a year in another off-Broadway play, James Lee's Career. His Broadway debut occurred in 1958 in Comes a Day. Hagman appeared in 4 other Broadway plays, God and Kate Murphy, The Nervous Set, The Warm Peninsula and The Beauty Part. During this period, Hagman also appeared in numerous, mostly live, television programs. Aged 25, Hagman made his television debut on an episode of Decoy. In 1958, he joined Barbara Bain as a guest star in the short-lived adventure drama series Harbour Master. Hagman joined the cast of daytime soap opera The Edge of Night in 1961 as Ed Gibson, and stayed in that role for 2 years. In 1964, he made his film debut in Ensign Pulver, which featured a young Jack Nicholson. That same year, Hagman also appeared in Fail-Safe, with Henry Fonda. I Dream of Jeannie. Hagman's first television role was as Kenneth Davidson in the 1957 episode Saturday Lost of the syndicated crime drama, Decoy, starring Beverly Garland as the first female police officer in a television lead. Hagman then appeared 3 times in 1958 on Lloyd Bridges' syndicated adventure series, Sea Hunt. In 1960, he was cast in the CBS summer medical series Diagnosis, and known in the role of Don Harding in the episode, The Case of the Radiant Wine. In 1963 and 1964, he appeared twice in segments of the CBS legal drama, The Defenders. After nearly 8 years of guest starring in various television series, Hagman was cast as Jeannie Barbara Eden's television master, and eventual love interest, Air Force Captain Anthony Nelson in the NBC sitcom, I Dream of Jeannie, which ran for 5 seasons from 1965 to 1970. The show entered the top 30 in its first year and was NBC's answer to the successful 1960s magical comedies, Bewitched on ABC and My Favorite Martian on CBS. 2 reunion movies were later made, both televised on NBC, I Dream of Jeannie, 15 years later and I Still Dream of Jeannie, but Hagman did not appear in either of them. He felt 5 years on the original show was enough, and he wanted to devote himself to dramatic work. In November 1999, after 29 years, Hagman agreed to reunite with Jeannie co-stars Barbara Eden and Bill Daly and creator/producer Sidney Sheldon on The Donnie and Marie Show. In 2002, when I Dream of Jeannie was set to join the cable channel TV Land, Hagman once again took part in an I Dream of Jeannie reunion with Eden and Daly, this time on Larry King Live. On the TV Land Awards in March 2004, Hagman and Eden were the first presenters to reunite on stage. The following October, Hagman and Daly appeared at the Ray Court's Hollywood Autograph Show. And the following year, 2005 brought all 3 surviving stars from I Dream of Jeannie to the first cast reunion at the Chiller Expo show. Hagman and Eden reunited in March 2006 for a publicity tour in New York City to promote the first season DVD of I Dream of Jeannie. He reunited once again with Eden on stage in the play Love Letters at the College of Staten Island in New York and the United States Military Academy, West Point, New York. The appearance marked the first time the 2 performers had acted together since Eden appeared with Hagman in a 5-episode arc on Dallas in 1990. Dallas, in 1977, Hagman turned down the role of Dr. David Banner for the Incredible Hulk that ultimately went to Bill Bixby. Also in 1977, Hagman was offered 2 roles on 2 television series that were debuting. One was for the Waverly Wonders and the other for Dallas, in the role of conniving elder son and businessman J.R. Ewing. When Hagman read the Dallas script at his wife's suggestion, they both concluded it was perfect for him. Hagman based his portrayal in part on memories of the eldest son who had won the Antelope Tool Company succession battle. Seen in more than 90 countries, the show became a worldwide success, inspiring several primetime soaps. Hagman became one of the best-known television stars of the era. Producers were keen to capitalize on that love-hate family relationship of J.R., building anticipation to a fever pitch in Who Shot J.R.? The 1980 cliffhanger season finale in which J.R. is shot by an unknown assailant. Ultimately, the person who pulled the trigger was revealed to be Kristen Sheppard in the Whodunit episode which aired on November 21, 1980. Kristen was J.R.'s scheming sister-in-law and mistress, who shot him in a fit of anger. At the beginning of the 3rd season later that year, audience and actors were trying to guess, who shot J.R.? Now one of fictional TV's most famous questions. During the media build-up, Hagman was involved in contract negotiations, delaying his return in the 4th season. Holding out for a higher salary, Hagman did not appear in the first episode of the show until the final few minutes. Producers were faced with the dilemma whether to pay the greatly increased salary or to write J.R. out of the program. Lorimar Productions, the makers of the series, began shooting different scenes of Dallas which did not include Hagman. In the midst of negotiations, Hagman took his family to London for their July vacation. He continued to fight for his demands and network executives conceded that they wanted J.R. to remain on Dallas. From then on, Hagman became one of the highest-paid stars in television. At the beginning of the 1980 Euro 81 season, writers were told to keep the storylines away from the actors until they really found out who actually shot J.R., and it took 3 weeks until the culprit was revealed on November 21, 1980, in a ratings record-breaking episode. For his performance as J.R. Ewing, Hagman was nominated for 2 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series in 1980 and 1981, but did not win. He was also nominated for 4 Golden Globe Awards, between 1981 and 1985. He was nominated for a Soap Opera Digest Award 7 times for Outstanding Villain on a Primetime Serial, Outstanding Actor in a Leading Role on a Primetime Serial, Favorite Super Couple, Primetime and Outstanding Actor in a Comic Relief Role on a Primetime Serial, and won 5 times. In 1984, co-star Barbara Bel Geddes left the show after suffering a heart attack. At one point, Hagman suggested to his real-life mother Mary Martin that she play Miss Ellie, but she rejected the suggestion and Bel Geddes was briefly replaced by Donna Reed for the 1984–1985 season. By the end of its 13th season in 1991, ratings had slipped to the extent that CBS decided to end Dallas. Hagman was the only actor to appear in all 357 episodes. He had also made 5 guest appearances on the Dallas spin-off series Knots Landing in the early 1980s. Some years after Dallas ended, Hagman appeared in 2 subsequent Dallas television movies, JR Returns in 1996, and War of the Ewings in 1998. Hagman reprised his role as J.R. Ewing in TNT's continuation of Dallas, which began in 2012. In 2011, while filming the new series, Hagman said, "Of course it's fun to play the villain." As a result of Hagman's death in 2012, his character J.R. was killed off in Season 2 of Dallas. Unused footage of Hagman as J.R. will be used in Season 3 as part of the season's story arc which will air in 2014. Other work, television, Hagman starred in 2 short-lived series in the 1970s, Here We Go Again and The Good Life. In 1993, Hagman starred in Staying Afloat as a down-on-his-luck former millionaire who agrees to work undercover with the FBI to maintain his playboy lifestyle. Originally ordered for 2 TV movies and a weekly series by NBC, the pilot movie aired in November 1993 to critical drubbing and low ratings, ending production. In January 1997, Hagman starred in a short-lived television series titled Orleans as Judge Luther Charbonnet, which lasted only 8 episodes. In 2002, he made an appearance in the 4th series of Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer's British comedy panel game, Shooting Stars. In January 2011, Hagman made a guest appearance in the 7th season of Desperate Housewives as a new husband for Lynette Skevo's mother, Stella. He directed episodes of I Dream of Jeannie and The Good Life as well as several episodes of Dallas and In the Heat of the Night, which was the only series he directed but did not act in. Film. He appeared in such feature films as The Group, Fail Safe, Harry and Tonto, Mother, Jugs and Speed, The Eagle Has Landed, Superman, S.O.B., Nixon and Primary Colors. His television work included Getting Away from It All, Sidekicks, The Return of the World's Greatest Detective, Intimate Strangers and Checkered Flag or Crash, The Howling in the Woods. He also directed a low-budget comedy and horror film in 1972 called Beware. The Blob, also called Son of Blob, a sequel to the classic 1958 horror film The Blob. This was the only feature film he directed. Music. In 1980, Hagman recorded a single called Ballad of the Good Luck Charm. Product spokesman. During the 1980s, Hagman was featured in a national televised Schlitz beer campaign, playing on a euro, but not explicitly featuring a euro the JR character. He wore the same kind of Western business outfit a euro complete with cowboy hat a euro that he wore in his role. The end of each 30-second spot featured a male voiceover saying, "Refreshing Schlitz beer. The gusto's back." Hagman, grinning into the camera, added, "And I'm gonna get it." He also made commercials for BVD brand underwear. In 2010, Hagman was hired as a spokesman for Solar World, a German solar energy commercial enterprise. While the Solar World commercials do not specifically mention either Dallas or J.R. Ewing, Hagman essentially revisits the character, stating that his oil company days are long over, though still in the energy business, meaning solar energy instead, which ironically alternative energy now plays a major part of the next-generation Ewing family war between Christopher and John Ross III. Personal life. In 1973, his stepfather Richard Halliday died, and Hagman reconciled with his mother, Mary Martin, soon after. The two were close until her death from colon cancer in 1990. In 1954, Hagman married Swedish-born Major Axelsson and they had two children, Heidi Christina and Preston. Longtime residents of Malibu, California, they then moved to Ojai. Hagman was a member of the Peace and Freedom Party since the 1960s. Hagman derided U.S. President George W. Bush, a fellow Texan, prior to the Iraq War. At a signing for his book he described Bush as a sad figure, not too well educated, who doesn't get out of America much. He's leading the country towards fascism. In 1969, Hagman's friend, musician David Crosby, supplied Hagman with LSD after a concert. LSD was such a profound experience in my life that it changed my pattern of life and my way of thinking and I could not exclude it. Hagman was introduced to marijuana by Jack Nicholson, as a safer alternative to Hagman's heavy drinking. I liked it because it was fun, it made me feel good, and I never had a hangover. In 1995, Hagman underwent a life-saving liver transplant after he was diagnosed with liver cancer. He was also a heavy smoker as a young man, before quitting at age 34. He was the chairman of the American Cancer Society's annual Great American Smokeout for many years, and also worked on behalf of the National Kidney Foundation. After attending a soccer game in Bucharest, between FC Steaua Bucure unregistered trademark T and West Ham United, he became a well-known fan of the Romanian team. In 2001, Hagman wrote his autobiography, titled Hello Darlin' Tall Tales About My Life. In a 2007 interview, Hagman discussed his support for alternative energy. On a 2008 episode of Living with Ed, Hagman and his wife showed actor Ed Begley, Jr. their solar-powered, super energy-efficient home named Heaven, and talked about their green lifestyle. Major Hagman was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2008, and Hagman at first took the lead in caring for her, but her condition deteriorated and by 2010 she required 24-hour nursing care. As a result, Hagman put their 43-acre estate in Ojai up for sale, listing it at $11 million. In June 2011, Hagman said he had stage 2 throat cancer. He commented, "As Jr. I could get away with anything, bribery, blackmail and adultery. But I got caught by cancer. I do want everyone to know that it is a very common and treatable form of cancer. I will be receiving treatment while working on the new Dallas series. I could not think of a better place to be than working on a show I love, with people I love." Hagman had an acorn-sized tumor removed from his tongue in 2011. In June 2012 the cancer was said to be in remission. Then, in July 2012, doctors diagnosed Hagman with myelodysplastic syndromes. Death: Hagman died on November 23, 2012, at Medical City Dallas Hospital in Dallas following complications from acute myeloid leukemia. In a statement to the Dallas Morning News, Hagman's family said, "Larry's family and close friends had joined him in Dallas for the Thanksgiving holiday. When he passed, he was surrounded by loved ones. It was a peaceful passing, just as he had wished for." The New York Times described him as one of television's most beloved villains. Actress Linda Gray, who played Sue Ellen Ewing on Dallas, called Hagman her best friend for 35, and was at his bedside when he died, her agent told the BBC. In a statement, she said, "He was the Pied Piper of life and brought joy to everyone he knew. He was creative, generous, funny, loving and talented and I will miss him enormously. He was an original and lived life to the fullest." Actor Patrick Duffy, who played Bobby Ewing on Dallas, was also at his bedside when he died. In a statement, he said, "Friday I lost one of the greatest friends ever to grace my life. The loneliness is only what is difficult, as Laya unregistered trademark S. Peace and comfort is always what is important to me, now as when he was here. He was a fighter in the gentlest way, against his obstacles and for his friends. I wear his friendship with honor." Larry Hagman's iconic character Junior Ewing was killed off in the show, followed by a J.R. Ewing funeral that aired on TNT March 11, 2013. J.R. was dying of cancer and had himself killed by his private investigator, Bum. Being J.R. and with the assistance of his family, he managed to get Cliff Barnes blamed for his death. Filmography. Stage: Love Letters to The Beauty Part Broadway, The Warm Peninsula Broadway, The Nervous Set Broadway, God and Kate Murphy Broadway, Comes a Day Broadway, The Taming of the Shrew Broadway, South Pacific London. Although he did not play the role on stage, Hagman starred opposite Lauren Bacall in the 1973 television broadcast of the Broadway musical Applause. References. External links: LarryHarmon.com, Hagman's official website, Larry Hagman at Allmovie, Larry Hagman at Find a Grave, Larry Hagman at Legacy.com, Larry Hagman at the Internet Broadway Database, Larry Hagman at the Internet Movie Database, Larry Hagman at the TCM Movie Database, Larry Hagman interview video at the Archive of American Television, Larry Hagman at Classic Television Showbiz, works by or about Larry Hagman in libraries.